Hey, Sister Leaders community, this is Dr. Karen Hills Pruden. And when you see this red background, it's two things that's going on when you see red. One, red is my favorite color, so everything is red. And then two, I am not by myself, that I got someone in this studio, and not just anyone, a great, great, great sister leader that we're going to learn about. And so for today, our special guest that we're going to dig into and learn more about is going to be Tasha Baron Smith. Welcome to the Sister Leaders community, Tasha.
Hi, thank you. Glad to be here with you today.
We are excited that you are here, and we can't wait to get all up in your business and find out all about you. And so, first, before we do that, how about you tell the Sister Leaders community who you are, who your ideal client is, and what you help them with?
Yeah, sure. So, hi everyone, Tasha Baron Smith here, and I am the owner of Sovereign Legacy Financial Group, and we are a full service accounting firm. And so we offer bookkeeping, tax preparation, tax strategy, CFO services. We also specialize in three-way reconciliations for IOTA trust accounts, which caters perhaps to law firms. And we also specialize in job costings for specific industries such as HVAC companies. So we help business owners primarily. Business owners are typically our clientele, typically owners making six and seven figures. But those are the clients that we serve. I am from the Caribbean, so I am an island girl. And I have lived here in Virginia for the past, 13 years. We are a military family, so I am also a military spouse and a mom of four. I have two daughters, two sons, and yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
And that is a lot, but we are used to it because as women, we have multiple roles, and we make it look so beautiful, even though it could be stressful at times. And so let's just kind of get started. You kind of answered my first question, which is a little bit about what gap you're destined to fill in terms of your services. And so my next question is, how does your firm define legacy, and how is that different from traditional financial planning?
Mm, wow, that's a great question. So, our definition of legacy, and why it might be different from other firms. One, as a military spouse and a mom, I think perhaps I might have a different approach to money management, how money is governed, I like to say. Even with the way I built my accounting firm, I firmly believe that whatever you build should be able to outlast you. So a lot of times talking about money in most cases is very uncomfortable for most people, but and money can be very emotional. It's an emotional topic, but it's something that we definitely have to embrace um, and and interact with and accept in a way that we can leave a legacy for our family. So when I think about sovereign legacy and I think about what I'm building for myself and for my family, and I think about what I'm helping my clients build, we look at legacy in terms of what we are leaving behind for our children, for the people after us. Because again, we want to build something that's going to outlive us. And in most cases, people don't always think perhaps like that, is what I want to think. So even when it comes to the revenue that our clients make, the tax strategy part is important because we also look at different investment that they can make to help them build a legacy that their children can benefit from, that their children's children. Now, our firm particularly, we do not do investments, but we do partner with other professionals who would offer that to our clients.
Okay, so then it goes beyond the present. I hear you say it goes beyond the present. It's generational. Um, I like that. So my next question is, I'm trying to get to the root of how you got into this field of business. And so what pivotal moment shaped your philosophy around wealth building and financial stewardship?
Dr. Karen, I like to think that God has a very interesting sense of humor because here is the truth. So, my mom had three children, and between my siblings and I was the worst with money. I took the most risks. I spent the most money. When it came to money growing up, I was a person no one really intended would become a money master, is what I call myself. So I'm saying that to say this. People think perhaps because I'm an accountant that I'm good with money, but the reality is I grew into this. In 2023, I declared expansion. So when I married my husband as a military spouse, I spent 10 years as a military spouse, stay-at-home mom, supporting my husband through his deployments, taking care of the children. And in 2023, I looked around and I said to myself, I am way too smart. I have a degree that I'm sitting on. I have over $100,000 in debt, in student loan debt. There's no reason. I'm way too smart to be broke. And in 2023, I declared expansion and I built a six-figure firm in 14 months. In that process, God showed me what was possible for me. And in that process, here I am, pulling myself out of debt, creating a legacy for my children, and helping business owners manage millions. I was able to even employ my siblings. So the person who was so bad at money became the pioneer for building wealth for my family, became the person that was chosen to help others manage millions. And I would love to stay here and tell you it's all by my doing, but it's not. I know it's by the grace of God. And I know I'm on assignment. One of the things I said in 2023 when I declared expansion, Dr. Karen, I said, Lord, allow me to express everything that you've put in me. Allow me to express that while I'm here on this earth. And Lord, keep me in your will. Keep me in your will. Let me be obedient to you. And Dr. Karen, everything God has told me to do, I have done. And I always check back in with him. In your will? Am I on the right path? Because I talk a lot about money. And I know sometimes people might think perhaps that money is my master. Could never. I master money. And the relationship I have with God has allowed me to keep things into perspective because God is always my source. Even though most of my clients are 6 and 7 figure earners, millionaires, God is still my source. And He has been my source from day one. And so that ties into the legacy that I've built, that I'm continuing to build because it is still expansion season. And it ties into what I'm able to now teach my children. Sometimes I think, my goodness, if I knew what I know now when I was about 22, I would have made some different changes. But to be honest, I wouldn't have been ready at 22 to really carry the assignment perhaps God has for me now. So I trust that everything has happened and is happening in His timing. Um, and I feel like perhaps I've talked a lot. So I hope I answered your
No,
question.
no, no, you're fine. You're fine. Because again, I mean, we want, natural conversation and we many times we like to know the why. Like, what was that moment? If it was a moment, sometimes for others it is multiple moments. Sometimes it is a season, a month, or years, or whatever. And then we also like to hear the backstory to dispel anything that we may make up in our head in terms of, so that you can fill in the gaps. So let's talk about wealth strategy and financial literacy. So let's talk about mistakes because we all make them. And you shared a little bit about, that maybe you weren't the best person, with the most unlikely, I'll say the most unlikely person that one would have think would be the expert that you are now. So what are the biggest financial mistakes you see high performing professionals making even at six-figure income levels?
Yeah. Um, and it depends on the individual because if we're talking about entrepreneurship and we're talking about business owners, even and these are mistakes perhaps I've even done before, right? Because I don't ever want to put myself on a pedestal as if I have it all together because I don't. I'm still figuring out. Um, most One of the biggest mistakes entrepreneurs make very early on in entrepreneurship is their pricing. A lot of times they are not fully aware of their value. So their pricing affects their profits. They don't typically price to profit. Uh, part of what I do as well is I coach other women. So what happened when I declared expansion and I'm like, I'm building this thing out, I attracted women. Other women kind of came to me and said, Tasha, coach me, coach me. And I've never even considered myself a coach, but I have coached about three women specifically into profitability and into expansion. And so I'm saying that to say one of the mindset that I saw kind of come up a lot is not wanting, being afraid of sales, being afraid to sell, not wanting to appear to be what people call money hungry, and in those cases, I kind of have to remind entrepreneurs, listen, you are in business to make money. Yes, we want to serve the people that, we work with and partner with. So yes, there's a service built into leadership and all of that. But listen, if you are in business, your primary goal is to make money. And a lot of times, let me speak for even our ethnicity, a lot of times, perhaps Black women, they're not fully comfortable, with approaching that head on. And I may not even limit it to race because this can happen across the board. So a pricing issue is a mistake. They price too low, they overextend, there's resentment, money is not being made. Another big mistake is not understanding pretty much the purpose of accounting. So, accounting is the language of business, and there's a process. So, a lot of times people only see or think about taxes, and they don't necessarily understand that taxes is just a part of the accounting process, which in most cases is closer to like the last part or the part before the last. After that, you have compliance. Bookkeeping is a part of the accounting process, which is in most cases the first part of the accounting process. That's where all the data gets collected. And a mistake I see a lot of entrepreneurs make is they don't realize that bookkeeping is a necessity according to the IRS standards. If you have a business, you want to have accurate record keeping, you want to have bookkeeping in place. So, bookkeeping is often overlooked when it is literally the foundation to you being able to secure funding for your business, to you being able to really elevate. Not having bookkeeping, not filing taxes, not knowing their numbers, using their bank accounts, their business bank accounts like it's their personal ATM, getting audited by the IRS, not having things in place, having to spend three times as much to clean up something that could have been avoided. So then that would be a second mistake, not understanding how accounting affects their business and not hiring a bookkeeper early on. Minimal, minimum. Another mistake perhaps that I see and if we're talking about legacy, is not having simple things in place, perhaps like life insurance, right? People think they have time, and in most cases, we don't know how much time we have. And so not having simple things like life insurance to be able to pay off debt and to leave your family something more than perhaps debt.
I love that. Absolutely. So let's talk about a true wealth strategy and what it includes. And so what does a true wealth strategy include beyond income and savings? What else beyond income and savings?
Yeah, that's a good question, Dr. Karen. Who came up with these questions? So, what does a true wealth strategy include beyond savings
And income.
and income? Huh. When we talk about wealth, there's a lot of it when we talk about wealth, what's coming up for me is like thinking about prosperity, whole life prosperity. And so, health is wealth as well. So health is wealth. Uh, so if we're not talking about income, we're not talking about savings, and we kind of have to talk about um, our soul. We have to talk about where we're going after we're done here, right? So that's a strategy, right? And making sure that we are definitely in the right place with our creator, with our God. We want to talk about perhaps how we operate, how we love ourselves, right? How we perhaps um, take care of ourselves, how we work out, what we eat. Um, can our body, is our body capable enough to support the expansion that we're working on? Uh, so wealth can incorporate all of these things. And I would definitely say primarily more health if we're not talking about income and savings. Now, there are other strategies if we want to talk about financial stuff, um, but I'll leave it there.
Okay, I think I'll stump you a little bit, Tasha. I think I'll stump you just a little bit. Just a little bit. So, but I got a few more questions for you that's in that same vein. That's in that
Okay, let's
same
see.
vein.
Let's see.
How can women leaders begin shifting from earned income to wealth building systems?
Hmm. Repeat that for me one more time.
Yes, absolutely. And if it's another, if you need to flip it to answer it another way, just flip it and answer it. So, how can women leaders begin shifting from earned income to wealth building systems? And when I created the question, when I'm thinking about systems, because systems is something that you repeat over and over and over again. It's not a one-off type thing. And so that's in line with your whole legacy type thing because any the only what anything that you use to generate legacy has to be repeated and consistent. And so other than just earning income, what other things that are wealth building should we be focusing on in addition to our earned income?
So I'm going to say, let me say this. My specialty is much more technical. So in the accounting realm, it's much more technical than it is advisory. So that question is definitely, it feels very advisory um, in terms of wealth building. Now, one of the things that I look at, is what we call monthly R MRR. MRR, monthly recurring revenue. So that can coincide with what you're talking about in terms of what can I create one time and receive residual income from. So, and that MRR can even be built into any type of entrepreneurship model. If you're talking about systems, you know, building assets even if it's digital assets, could be another item that can be created to create income that you create one time, and it's a system that you don't have to micromanage. So digital assets, even writing a book, right? Writing a book would be another system that you create one time that you can get residual sales from. So, and honestly, that's something that a lot of us don't think about. We don't think about what can I create one time that I can receive money from 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, so that I don't have to work all the time. So that's a really good question. So, and I think the best answer that I can come up with is definitely something like a wealth building asset, like a book, a course, a digital asset like a course. Those are things that can be created, systems that can be created one time and sold repeatedly.
I love that. I love that. So I have about two more questions because I know you have another appointment. So, but we're trying to extract that knowledge from you, and then I also want you to share with everyone how they can stay in contact with you so they can have more in-depth conversations about their own personal business situation. So my question is, what unique challenges do women face when it comes to building and sustaining wealth? We're sister leaders, and so do you have or are you aware of any unique changes, any unique challenges that are relevant just for women when it comes to building and sustaining wealth, or is it the
You,
same as the men?
you know what? I don't think it's the same as a man at all. And I say that especially from a military wife standpoint, because, even in our household, in most cases, depending on who's active duty, because I guess, it could flip, but in most cases, if the, woman is not active duty, the responsibility in the military household is that, I mean, everyone's sacrificing, yes, but in most cases, women put themselves and their goals and their ambitions in most cases to the side to support their spouse, to raise the children. So I feel like as nurturers, we naturally have a tendency in most cases to put ourselves to sacrifice to the point sometimes where everything else comes first. So I think women in most cases have we have that going for us. We don't always choose ourselves first. In the name of love, we choose others, our spouse, our children. And I think the expectation, even though it's 2026 and women have made so much progress, I think the expectation really still is that in most cases, women make the most sacrifices. And also, when it comes to women being in leadership, I'm actually writing a book about this, Dr. Karen, in terms of the
Okay.
feminine, being feminine, even while you are ambitious, because even women, we don't have to be men in the boardroom, even though it's probably full of men. We don't have to be masculine. We don't have to be aggressive. We can still lead. We can still be ambitious, and we can still be all those things with a soft feminine approach. So that's actually something that hopefully can be out soon. But yeah.
Absolutely, and I totally agree with you in that. So let's talk about my closing question before you share how they can stay connected to you has to do with Tasha personally. And so what does financial freedom mean to you, Tasha personally?
You know, financial freedom to me, uh, that means not, it means having freedom. It means having freedom to do as to do what I want to do. Because I have been in many situations where I always kind of felt like I have to do what I have to do. And so for me, financial freedom means I'll get to do exactly what I want to do when I want to do it, with who I want to do it with. It means that my children are taken care of. It means that I've been able to leave something meaningful for them that they can continue to expand on. Financial freedom for me, it's all of those things. It's doing what God wants me to do. It includes all of that. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So I'm sure people have a lot more questions than what I ask. And so please share with the Sister Leaders community how they can stay in contact with you, where they can find you online. Of course, your bio is attached to this podcast, but definitely anything that you got coming up that you want them to support you with. But yeah, definitely share your information for the Sister Leaders podcast community.
Yeah. So my email address is pretty simple. It's admin@tashabaronsmith.com, admin@tashabaronsmith.com. You can definitely send me an email. You can follow me on LinkedIn, tashabaronsmith.com. Well, just Tasha Baron Smith on LinkedIn. You can follow our pages on social media, Sovereign Legacy Financial Group. You can join our newsletter. We send out a newsletter every month. So if you are a business owner, entrepreneur, you're thinking about entrepreneurship, you can go on our website, sovereignlegacyfg.com. You can subscribe to our newsletter. You can get the nuggets that we send once a month out to our clients. You can actually get a copy of what we send out. Yeah, those are the kind of ways that you can stay connected to me.
Awesome, awesome. And so that was Miss Tasha Baron Smith. And so I would be remiss not to mention I will get hit in the head by my team if I did not mention the conference is coming up October 2nd and 3rd at the Rivers Casino. And so make sure you check out our website, sisterleadersconference.com, to find out what's going on in terms of we are starting to kick into gear and signing individuals up. And we have wonderful subject matter experts, such as individuals like Tasha Baron Smith, in different industries. And so stay connected so you can hear more about the conference. But for today, I'm Dr. Karen Hills Pruden, and I bid you a good evening and a good night. Bye.
Thank you.